Hey folks, it's Martin. Does Bigfoot live in my backyard? I started this channel after being inspired by several researchers on YouTube that I follow. My experience with Bigfoot, in Florida we call them skunk apes, began about 14 years ago when I moved with my family onto a piece of property that apparently, as it turns out, is adjacent to a clan of skunk ape. It's a rural area. It's not isolated. There are others besides me that live in the area. But they are there. Shortly after settling on the property, I began having experiences with them. I've seen them many times. I've had to deal with them. They act like petulant children sometimes. They'll steal things. For instance, I have a number of dogs and I buy dog food bulk. And I used to keep it in a 55-gallon drum that had a lid in a lean-to beside my barn. Well, they stole it, drum and all. Interesting, the drum had maybe 250 pounds of dog food in it. And they didn't knock it over and eat the food like a bear would. They took the drum, food and all. And I've never found it. That's interesting. They come onto the property and eat the grapes off my grape arbor, eat the plums off my plum tree. Anyway, over a period of time, we kind of came to an understanding. And I've really not had any problems out of them. They can be somewhat aggressive, but I've never experienced any violence. As a matter of fact, this past New Year's weekend, a lot of fireworks, a lot of gunfire out in the area. And apparently the big fella that rules the clan got pretty upset. And he broke one of the rules that we have established, and that is that you don't come over my fence. Well, he came over the fence and he went to an oak tree and broke two big limbs off of it that are up 10 feet tall. And the limbs are like that big around. I shot a short video of it. It's on the channel, you can see it, where I walk around the property and I show you the tree. Well, the night that he did that, I was on the back porch and I heard it. And I tore off over there and confronted him. We weren't 15 yards apart. And I chewed him out. And he fussed back. I held my ground. He could have easily crossed that distance between us before I could have reacted and torn my head off. I wasn't armed. I had no way to defend myself. He didn't do that. After he fussed back at me, and I held my ground. He jumped over the fence and went back home. Now, some of the YouTube videos that I watch have good visual evidence of these guys. Faces, body forms. The fellas that I'm experiencing don't look like that. Now, I'm not saying that these other things are fake or hoaxes. I don't believe that at all. What I believe is that here in Florida, because we are subtropical, that our skunk ape are different. The big fella, I call him Stinky, and the reason I call him Stinky is because he stinks. He's the only one of them that does, and he stinks. He smells like he takes a bath in the septic tank. Now, he doesn't look dirty, he doesn't look filthy, but he stinks. I think it's a glandular thing. I don't know. But if you smell that rotten septic tank and you're not standing next to a septic tank, guess what? You're downwind of a dominant male skunk ape, which is probably where they get the name skunk. It don't smell like skunk. It smells like a septic tank. But anyway, never experienced any violence toward my animals or myself or my family. The big fella scared my wife once, and I had to run him off. I'll tell you about that another time. But I believe that if you're not physically aggressive towards them, that they will yield and back off. That's been my experience. Now, since I started exploring these fellas off my property, I have taken into the account the fact that I'm by myself, and these are big fellas. Okay, Stinky is 7.5, possibly 8 feet tall. I'll tell you what he reminds me of, and that is Shaquille O'Neal when he was in his prime playing basketball. He's a big fella, and he is obviously fit, but he's not black. You can clearly see his skin under his hair. His hair's not thick. He's covered with hair, but it's not thick. His skin is a brownish tan, and his features are very human-like. There's nothing ape about this fellow, but clearly not a human like you and me. Okay, he's probably 450 pounds. Definitely could be a character to reckon with if he was so inclined. Now, back to going off my property. I've only posted a couple of videos, some down in the creek bottom, which is only a quarter of a mile from my property, and a couple in the state Florida forest, which is about 2 miles from my property. I've shot quite a bit of video, but I've only posted a couple of things. But I thought I'd talk about for a minute vulnerability. If my YouTube channel and other people's YouTube channels inspire you to go out and look for these people, you're going to find them. They are not rare. All you have to do is know what the sign is and look for the sign. If you follow the sign, you will find them. They will let you know. They'll hoot at you. They'll yell at you. They'll throw stuff at you. If you're lucky, you'll see one. They're there. They are not rare. But with keeping in the fact that I'm now 60 years old and I'm out by myself, I carry with me a small amount of gear. I carry a whistle. That's in case I'm hurt and I need to be able to signal and hope somebody can hear it. I carry a really good flashlight. Even though I don't go out at night, I might be there at night and I've got a flashlight. I carry a couple of bottles of water. I carry a full-size 40 caliber Glock. I'm in the firearm business. I have a federal firearm license and I'm a firearm instructor. That's what I do for a living. So firearms are second nature to me. And this is only for immediate self-protection, preservation of my life. I have no intention at all of harming these people because they exist. That doesn't make any sense to me. These people that talk about we've got to prove them to science by shooting one, well, that's just stupid. Science is not going to believe it unless you produce a body. But why should that animal die so that they will believe something? Anyone who goes out into the woods and looks for the sign is going to understand that they're real and they're not rare. You don't need to kill one. Self-defense, different story. And I don't mean shoot one just because he scared you, because they will scare you. Stand your ground. A high degree of probability they're going to back off. I carry a tomahawk. This is a good tomahawk, got a nice long handle, good high carbon steel, got a hammer on one end, razor sharp on the other. This is a useful tool. And it's not really intended for self-defense, but I can sure as heck use it for that if I have to. And I carry my K-bar. That's about it. I have a compass in my pocket. What I'm going to do next in the state forest is I'm going to start at a point where skunk ape sign is visible from one of the woods roads. And I'm going to map it. And I'm going to create a map of where the sign is in an area so that it can be looked at on paper, topographically, and read as sign to see if there is a pattern. I think that would be interesting. I believe there are patterns. This stuff is not just random. They live there. And these signs have meaning to them. Now, I've heard on other folks' video voice captures. Utah Forest People, I think is his website. He got some really good capture. And it sounds like American Indian. I've heard some from other places. and it sounds like American Indian to me. So what I did was I went to the Cherokee Nation's website. They have a great deal of information on their language, including an engine that will translate English words into Cherokee phonetically and give you a recording of what that word sounds like spoken. Well, using that resource and taking some notes, I believe I have discovered that these fellas, at least the ones that I'm dealing with, speak a language which, for all intents and purposes, is close enough to Cherokee that they can be understood and they can understand you. Now, I know there's evidence out there that they mimic, that they will mimic English language and sounds and birds, and I believe all of that. But I'm beginning to have some communication with the clan that lives around me, and nothing I'm ready to release yet, but I'm going to build some audio files, and I think it's going to be an interesting study.